What's up, everyone? I'm your female otaku, and I'm here to make a guide video on your very first Anime NYC. This isn't going to be a general convention guide video. I've already made a video for your very first anime convention in general, and another video for special hacks for any anime convention. So please click on those links in the description if you're interested in those. But for those of you who just want Anime NYC specifically, this is the video for you. Believe it or not, 2019 is Anime NYC's third year, and we're already expecting over 40,000 people. I know it's growing pretty fast with all the amazing movie premieres, special guests, concerts. It's bound to be an incredible year. Why should you listen to me? Well, I've been going to Anime NYC since its first year. I kid you not, the footage that you're seeing right now is from my very first Anime NYC, as well as last year's. It quickly shot up to being one of my favorite conventions, and I want to help more people get into this con. I will be separating this guide video into categories. First being Anime NYC in general, as well as the convention center and New York City. Next is transportation, then foods, cosplay/photography, and other nerdy stuff. If you're interested in something specific, then please click on the timestamps in the description. With all that said, let's get started. Anime NYC takes place over at the Javits Center in New York City. The Javits Center is famous for hosting all sorts of conventions, including New York Comic Con. Needless to say, it's a pretty huge convention center, so huge that it spreads over 2 blocks. But that's not all. They're actually building even more to add on to the convention center. So when you get there, you're most likely going to see construction going on. You know what else you're going to see? Another convention. I kid you not, for some reason, Anime NYC always runs during another convention. For the past 2 years, it was PetCon, and now this year it's some sort of chocolate expo. I wonder what's going to be next year. But yeah, if you're worried about it being crowded, don't worry about it. The Javits Center is huge. You know what else? It's cold. Some of you may be expecting that since this is the East Coast and we do get the cold weather and it's the middle of November. But I don't think you understand. New York City is always colder than everywhere else. Not only that, but the Javits Center specifically is right next to the Hudson River, meaning it'll be even colder and windier. So please, bring yourself a coat. The Javits Center does have a coat check. To give you a general idea as to where everything is in the Javits Center, when you first enter, which is the main entrance, that is known as the Crystal Palace. You will see a ton of large posters, most likely being Fate, as well as Will Call, aka the Registration Center. That's where you can pick up your badge, whether you pre-ordered or because you're just picking it up right there. Maybe you gotta get your extra goods that you ordered online for. It'll all be there. To your left, down the stairs, you will notice the cosplay meetups. And all the way to your right, you're going to notice that section is a lot more empty. That's because that's where the second convention is going to be held. And if you keep on walking straight, you will notice the huge entrance to the Exhibitors Hall, aka the Dealer's Room. You'll also notice some escalators going up. Those lead you to the Artist Alley, while the escalators going down lead you to the resting area and food court. I say resting area kind of lightly, as there's not technically a resting area unless you're VIP. The VIP resting area is right next to Will Call, while the general resting area is just the food court. We'll talk more about the food court later on, but let me just say it's pretty hard to get a seat. As to where you find your panels, you'll probably find them right next to the cosplay meetups, so when you enter the Crystal Palace, make a left into the cosplay meetups. You'll notice an escalator leading you downstairs. That'll lead you to the autographs and the panels. This could change next year, but this is how it's been for the past 3 years, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. The con staff is very experienced. Even the people who are in charge of Anime NYC have helped out other conventions in the past. They know how to run a con, and that's why Anime NYC is so well run. The other staff members who volunteer are also experienced con goers. Let me tell you something real important, guys. Escalator etiquette. This is a thing in New York, and here's why. New York City is one of the most populated cities in the world. Obviously, us weebs going to a big convention are not the only ones here. There are way more businessmen, tourists, and such out there than there are con-goers. So please respect the escalator etiquette, which is, when you get on the escalator, stay to your right, unless you're in a rush or just want to speed up, you walk up the escalators on the left. If you're not planning on walking or running up the escalators, stay put on the right. Even if you're with your group of friends, all of you stay on the right unless you're all planning on walking up the escalator. Don't be that guy. I had someone ask me on Twitter on if Anime NYC is relatively known as FateCon. Yes, Fate is huge over at Anime NYC. Besides the giant posters that you'll see when you first walk in, you'll notice a bunch of events and the Aniplex booth filled with Fate cosplayers, other Fate meetups, Fate merch, just a ton of Fate. There's a lot of Fate, okay? But even if you're not into Fate, that doesn't mean you're gonna feel left out or be left behind. There's plenty of other cosplayers and plenty of other things to do. I know this year they're planning a bunch of Dr. Stone events, so you'll be fine. While there is a buttload of Fate, you'll still have a good time even if you're not into it. The Artist Alley is one of my favorites. There are a ton of artists doing all sorts of things, from prints to charms, especially the charms. Some of them do commissions as well. Just the Artist Alley is great. I highly recommend going to the Artist Alley first before you get to the Exhibitors Hall, as while the Exhibitors Hall is great, it's not the best. It's the standard Exhibitors Hall you'd expect from your typical large-scale convention, like, Anime Expo, Anime Boston, Otakon, stuff like that. The Javits Center tends to be kind of dead after 7 o'clock. While there are still panels and events going on, you'll notice that it cleaned out pretty fast. Events and panels are still going on, but not much. So this is normally when people decide to go out and participate in one of the after parties, which you can probably find on Facebook or Instagram. Of course, you can stay at the Javits Center past 7, but you'll probably notice that there's just not that much to do. Also to note is that on Sundays, the Javits Center will kick you out as soon as the con ends. So right away when it's 5 or 6, whenever the con ends, you'll notice that the Javits Center security people will yell at you and kick you out immediately. Friends in the bathroom? Doesn't matter. You gotta leave. Okay, with all that general stuff out of the way, let's talk about transportation. New York City and New Jersey have a fantastic transportation system. If you're coming in from New Jersey, such as myself, the easiest way, and honestly just the best way overall, is to take the ferry. Take the ferry from Port Imperial and Weehawken straight over to the Javits Center. That's right, the ferry from Port Imperial drops you off, I kid you not, 2 blocks away from the Javits Center. Absolutely the best way to get there if you're coming from Jersey. You could also take NJ Transit, which is our bus system. So any of you guys staying over at a hotel in New Jersey, because let's face it, it's cheaper, then just ask the people over at the hotel what's the best NJ Transit bus to take. And for those of you staying in New York City, the best way is definitely the subway, depending on how close your hotel is. There is one subway that drops you off a block away from the Javits Center, but unfortunately it closes over the weekend. So you'll only be able to use it Thursday and Friday. Saturday and Sunday, you're going to have to walk or take an Uber or Lyft. If you need any more help with transportation, Google Maps is your best friend. You just type in your destination and it'll literally tell you what specific subway or what specific bus to take. They also added this new feature for AR navigation. So if you're walking over to the Javits Center and you have no idea if you're going the right way, just tilt your phone up and it'll show you whether or not you're going the right way. It can detect where the heck you are. I freaking love it. Foods. I'll be honest, most of the time I tend to forget to eat while I'm at the convention, but when I do remember, here are some places that I like to go eat. All the following places that I'm going to mention are within a 25-minute walk from the Javits Center. So for those of you who are not willing to walk, which I can understand since it'll be freezing outside, then check out Uber Eats. A lot of people use Uber Eats. Sake Bar Hagi is my personal favorite place to get ramen at. It's smack in the middle of Restaurant Row and the Theater District, so it's pretty populated and you can bring all your friends with you. Tabata Ramen is very close to the convention center, about a 13-minute walk. It's very small though, so I don't recommend bringing a large group of friends, no more than 4 people. Shake Shack is smack in the middle of Times Square, but there is usually a very long line. Type in Google Maps 2 Bros Pizza. They're scattered everywhere over New York City, and the pizza only costs $2. If you're a bubble tea fan, make it to Vivi's. That is my personal favorite bubble tea place. A lot of the food over at the convention center is pretty expensive, but whatever you do, do not get your food over at Starbucks or at the food place that's on the second floor on your way to the artist alley. Don't eat there. That's way overpriced. There's one just like it at the bottom, all the way down to where the food court is in the back, right across from the special events hall. That has the cheapest food. It's buffet style, but it is very cheap and just, standard, your average typical food that you'd get at any convention center, finger foods, Some other places around the convention center that my friends recommended are Olive Chicken, Jongro BBQ, Woorijip, Baekjeong, Pocha 32, and Jollibee. Most of those places are for Korean fried chicken and Korean barbecue, while Jollibee is from the Philippines. It's like a Filipino fast food place, or I guess more like a Boston market now that I think about it. Cosplay/photography. Very important, cosplayers. Listen to me here. The Javits Center is very strict when it comes to guns. If it looks like an actual gun, don't bring it. I'm telling you, don't do it. I know some people have more realistic looking guns as props, so what they do is that they usually tape the end of it or paint the end of it a bright yellow or orange to mimic as if it was a Nerf gun. That'll sometimes get you by, not always. Plus, I don't know if you want to ruin your prop by painting it orange to make it look unrealistic. So all of you girls frontline players and certain Overwatch characters have a bit more realistic guns depending on the character. Just don't bring it, all right? Something like Diva's gun would be fine. But anything that looks like a pistol, like something from Black Lagoon, just don't do it. You will not allowed to bring it in the con. They will take it away from you. Also important to note with your props, for those of you who have swords and also other people with guns, don't walk around the city with those props. It has been known, as even over at Comic-Con, people will freak out, especially the tourists. New York City is very sensitive with that sort of thing, and with good reason, obviously, with, 9/11. My own father was a survivor of 9/11. Terrorism does still happen in New York City on a small scale within recent years, but still it happens. So just don't test people. If you have a sword, just hide it in your coat or don't bring it at all. This is really not the type of convention that you want to bring props. I think I've only ever brought a prop once over at the con, and it was a katana. And I wasn't walking around Times Square with my katana, I just kept it with me over at the Javits Center, and then when it was time to go home, I went straight to the ferry, 2 blocks away. That's it. So don't be roaming around with that sort of stuff, okay? Remember, cosplayers, again, it is windy. Very, very windy. Wear your safety shorts. Wear your thick tights. Okay, please. You're going to freeze. I'm going to freeze. It is windy. Huh. With that out of the way, cosplayers and photographers, here are some nice photo shoot spots. There is a small park right across from the Javits Center, right next to the subway. There are interesting alleyways across from the Javits Center as well, but of course, some homeless people are more dangerous than others, so just be wary. A new building known as The Vessel opened up a couple of months ago. It is also across from the Javits Center, about a block or 2 away. It is this really cool, funky looking building, man. I don't know how to describe it. It just kind of zigzags. It looks pretty cool. I did a photo shoot there over at Comic-Con. It's pretty awesome, but again, it's closer to the water. It's windy. You might have to hold down your wig or your hat or your skirt, so, be careful. The High Line is also another fun spot where a lot of cosplayers like to go to do photo shoots. But again, the wind. I'm going to keep on reminding you about the wind. And finally, there's the Cosplay Tunnel. It's not officially known as the Cosplay Tunnel, but a lot of people do call it that because that's where the crazy cosplayers go to do their photo shoots. For those of you who've been to New York Comic Con, the Cosplay Tunnel is basically where all the food trucks usually set up. But there's no food trucks over at Anime NYC since it's just too damn cold. The tunnel's pretty small, but I did a photo shoot there myself as Okita Alter there last year, and I was able to last about 30 minutes, so depends on you. It's still pretty damn cold. Other nerdy stuff. For those of you who are able to stay over in New York City a little longer, maybe you want something to do on Thursday or something to do after on Sunday, here's where you can go. Cat cafes. Take the subway or a lift over to a cat cafe. My personal favorite is Konako, but there's also Meow Parlor. I've made videos on both cat cafes, and I will leave links to those in description. The Line store suddenly blew up last year as the place to bring all of your weeb friends after Anime NYC. It's very cute. You have all these adorable little mascots. You got BTS merch for all you BTS crazed fans, and some Instagrammable little spots. The Nintendo store for obvious reasons. And finally, Book Off, Kinokuniya, and Midtown Comics. All these places are where you can get your wonderful anime figures and manga. I do want to point out that Book Off is secondhand, so if you want, you can bring your unwanted otaku goods and merch and sell them over at Book Off. They will give you cash for it right on the spot. Kinokuniya's manga is a little more on the pricier side, but they do have a very large selection of anime and manga and figures. And Midtown Comics has a mix of regular comic books and manga, and it's a few anime figures. Mostly it's just comics. And that's all for your very first Anime NYC. Let me know if you have any extra questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And I really hope your first Anime NYC is a great one. I'm your female otaku. Sayonara.